Hello everyone. Many of you have seen, via video on TV on many of the news channels, brazen theft happening in which product is being taken from stores. We've seen examples of young people and old grabbing products indiscriminately and running out of the building. We've seen smashing and grabbing of showcases in stores. We've seen terrified consumers. We've seen terrified employees. All of this is contributing to why you're hearing a steady drumbeat from many retailers. Many retailers are calling out that shrink is on the rise. And many of them are saying one of the key drivers to this shrink is organized retail crime. They're rethinking what product they put in those stores. They're rethinking the merchandising of that product. Many of us get frustrated when you go into a retail store and you need to wait for an employee to unlock a showcase. That's a byproduct of external theft. That's what happens. That's the reality. And so as we deal with this issue of retail crime, organized retail crime, and its impact on shrink, it's important to appreciate the impact it has on the consumer. There are three things that retailers need to do to address shrink. Number one is engage in a rigorous process of root cause analysis for the drivers of shrink, which is essentially taking the operational issues that drive shrink and marrying that with the data to understand where the losses are coming from across the procure-to-pay cycle, which is essentially from the point that you acquire the product all the way through selling it, including reverse logistics and return. Number two is around real-time tracking. How do you track issues around theft and fraud real-time so you can react to them in a more appropriate timeline? And the last is shifting away from lagging indicators, of which shrink is one, to leading indicators, right? How do I get more proactive about that? So what are the barriers in achieving these three things? Well, number one, it's data, data, data. Essentially, you will need to have a good understanding of your data landscape, and you will need tracking mechanisms and tools in your data environment that allow you to better track shrink, all the drivers of shrink, both theft and non-theft, and understand the relationship between units lost and dollars lost, and how do you mitigate that risk.
Think about retail crime as a disruptive and innovative, agile market innovation. Imagine if it were a revenue-driven marketplace that serves customers in new and innovative ways. You would have a different approach to it than just calling the police. So let's look at how we can look at this market innovation and how we can help disrupt organized retail crime. The key to disrupting organized crime is to disrupt the flywheel of organized crime. So in the same way in the 1970s that RICO was used to impact the business of organized crime, we have to look at the network of organized crime and understand how we can disrupt that network. The three steps to do that are first to gather clean and consistent data governance, accelerate solutions on top of that data with AI-driven automation, and then really seek to disrupt the network at the right. So at the top, you have suppliers who provide the products, which are the stores. Going into those stores, you have boosters and thieves who have been up to now the main focus of retail theft law enforcement. And then those boosters have to then secure those items. So they have to find a place to store them and keep them securely. They need to appraise the value of those. They need to clean all of the identifying data off of them. And they need to use a fencer who can operate this entire network in order to coordinate each of these steps. That fencer will need to store those products somewhere and then ship them after listing them in online platforms to get them to those final customers. So there's tons of points in here for failure and ways that we can disrupt this network by looking at the data and understanding the patterns that drive this network. So in order to fight these networks, we need to create a unified loss disruption 360 that automates and accelerates our own disruptive flywheel. If we look at shrinkage in the center, we need to take the views from consumers and help them get educated about what stolen merchandise looks like so they know that they're not inadvertently transacting with a network. We need to help store employees optimize towards more positive customer experiences. We need to feed data analysts all of the data so that they can capture, model, and deploy AI strategies. And then at the retail level, they need to log every loss that happens to the store and share that data in an organized fashion faster. And law enforcement and technology partners need to have a seat at the table to collaborate with each of those members in order to enlist all of these stakeholders on a single platform and lead to disruption success. So let's go into a store and look at what a day in the life would look like if we had this implemented. An incident has just happened in this store. The boosters have come in, stolen some items, and left. And you can see we've already captured a few items there. And what's important is we've captured that iPhone and that Samsung Galaxy Fold, but we've also captured the value of those because we're pulling that straight from our inventory. So I immediately know the total cost of this was $17,000 plus. And that's really important when I'm talking to law enforcement, that this wasn't just a one-off theft. This was a major theft that reaches a felony level. Below that, I can capture any details. If there are photos I want to take of the incident in order to capture that, they will also be attached to that. So I'll have a record of everything that's important to this incident, and it'll be captured here in a set of data that can be used and shared across multiple partners. So one of the first things we can generate off of this is a case record, and that case record automatically captures the store location, time and date, loss value tier, and segment. Because this is captured in an organized fashion, it can compare it to other related cases and understand if this is part of a series of crimes. And then it can also look at the propensity to repeat if this seems like something that's a recurring incident across our stores. At the center, you see the total loss, affected inventory, and the fact that we've involved police. And then I can see if there are related cases. So I know that this isn't just one incident, this is part of a series or a string of events that I want to alert law enforcement about. Einstein AI is also looking at this and understanding there may be security footage that I may want to attach to this. I may want to review and link similar known individuals if this looks like somebody who we've seen before. And then I want to be able to easily generate police reports and report this to both my local police and potentially the FBI. And because this data is all captured in Salesforce, I can have it pre-formatted for the San Francisco Police Department. And if I also wanted to report this to the FBI, we could go in there and create a template for them as well, so that each of those police reports is generated using the same book of data, but generated instantly out of the system. We can then look at individuals. So this is a person that we may have seen in the past and we have a record of. We can understand if there's any contact information or background on this person, that they're active, that there's a high propensity for this person to perform these acts again, and that they've been fairly active currently. So we know instantly that this is a pretty high profile person that we definitely want to track down. I can look at that person's total impact, in this case, over $50,000. So when I talk to the police, I know this is not just a minor incident that's going on. This is somebody who's working with organized crime. I can see there may be 4 open cases, and this person may have 3 known associates. So not only am I beginning to create a sketch of how active they are, but also if they have a crew or a network of people that they work with, I can enhance those associations here and then look at what his last active case was. Below that, we can dig down and see the details of related cases, look at the sketch of his known associate network, and then look at the products that he's been targeting. So I know this person has been targeting some pretty high-end products. I want to make sure that every store in my network knows that these are the products to secure and to keep an eye on when they're laying out their stores. We can then look at the individual store view. And so this is a store report that shows me, here's the store, here's the activity timeline on the bottom. In the center, I can look at the total loss. In this case, the store has suffered $4 million in losses. They have a high risk score, meaning they've been getting hit pretty often. And then I know that the location that the store is in is only a medium risk. So I know that there are things I can do directly in this store that will help bring down that risk score. And I can see the total number of cases for the store as well. And at the top, Einstein is also helping me along and making suggestions to be sure to review security footage for weaknesses, continue to link individual known perpetrators, and then escalate to law enforcement if I have insights that I want to share that may help secure this store. Now we can look at the data behind these stores. I can look at what my total shrink rate is, net losses, any targeted recovery, and I can look at my regional hotspots and shrinkage by business unit. So it gives me a good idea to project forward about what I might experience in the future. And then I can drill in on loss margins. So I can understand how many products are we losing versus what we're recovering. And then if I go down to the product level, I can also look at what are the individual products that are being stolen. I can look at trends in inventory that will help inform how I lay out my stores. I can look at inventory that's being listed outside in other markets, so I have an idea of what may be popular in the near future. And then I can also look at the top 10 product losses. These name brands of these products are really key to unlocking what's going on online, because they're the things that people go out and search for and look to get bargains on. So we know if these are things that are leaving our stores, we're going to want to close the loop on where these items are appearing online in order to help law enforcement close that loop. So if we drill in on an individual item that's been stolen, I can see here in the top, the light blue is how many products have been stolen. And then in the dark blue, I can see that there's been a surge a few days after those thefts in marketplaces. So I can see in this case for this phone, it's gone out the door. And then immediately following that, within a few days, I'm starting to see surges in marketplaces. And I can drill down to places like eBay or other online marketplaces and see what specific surges are happening, and then see if we can help law enforcement trace those back to the networks that are posting those. We can also look at an executive summary to really help us lay out our business and project forward. So here I can see what's our exposure, how much has been lost, what's been the cost over the year. Is there a trend of crimes going on now that I need to be aware of? And then I can also look on the right, how effective is the measures that we're taking? So are we spending the right amount of money in the right places, and are those being effective in disrupting retail crime? There may be successes we're having in low impact regions that I may want to move to high impact regions so that I know I'm always spending my resources in the right places to drive the most impact. And then finally, we want to look at this at the executive level. So I want to understand and help my executive understand what is the total impact of retail crime in our business. I can always share the total incidents reported, item match daily rate, meaning what's going out and what are we discovering in online marketplaces, and then what is the total loss due to theft. And so I can share this via Tableau Pulse, and these reports are generated via AI, and I can update my executives daily, weekly, monthly, whatever they prefer, so that everybody's looking at the same data at the same time, and we understand not just the impact of retail crime, but the impact of the efforts we're taking to fight it. This is a shot from the San Francisco courthouse, and you can see when you look across these brands, this is a collection of items that were found in a garage, and they stretch across several different retailers. So you can see we've got stuff from various places, and no one retailer would be able to solve this crime without talking to the other retailers. So you look at $300,000 worth of goods, and we're able to accelerate the win and accelerate the arrest by unifying that data and creating those wins faster and preventing this from happening again.
To do this, essentially, retailers are going to have to rethink how they track and analyze inventory losses today. It's going to mean introducing new tools and capabilities and partnering across the procure-to-pay cycle. Again, starting from the beginning of your supply chain, when I procure a product, acquire a product, receive product, all the way through to how I sell it, the channels in which I sell it. And this is becoming more and more complicated. It's more and more complicated because retail today is more complicated. So again, analyzing your data, looking at your data and analyzing shrink is going to become more and more critical as we fight the growth in theft and the impact to shrink.